Hello, Mech Warriors and Battletech fans. Good evening and welcome to my first and probably only Battletech video. There's already plenty of Battletech channels out there, so there's no real reason for me to try and steal their thunder. Um, yeah, so as the title suggests, this is a video about my first Battletech tournament. For those of you who know me, I'm not a Battletech guy. I, I got into the Battletech universe through the video games. Um, and I only had like a cursory understanding of the fiction. One of my buddies a long time ago loaned me the Blood of Kerensky books, and yeah, I enjoyed them thoroughly. I've listened to a few of the audiobooks, and some of them were kind of like, eh. Anyway, yeah, there's a bunch to unpack. But first, a couple caveats. Number one, um, like I said, there's other Battletech channels out there, one of which being my favorite, Battlebound. So, Tuck, I lied to you. I was mistaken about how the scoring was done. I was not 8th, I was 22nd. I will put up a picture in post-production of the list, but that won't really mean anything to anybody except for the people who've already seen it because they were players. Um, Second caveat, I am a natural curmudgeon and I overthink things. Um, but that doesn't mean I didn't have a good time. I thoroughly enjoyed the tournament. It's still beyond my stamina means. I've gotten old. I did some of the tournament scene in 40K, and even though BattleTech is a little easier to handle, it's still the marathon of gaming is not something that I want to be doing on a regular basis. But I'll probably maybe play one tournament a year. Where to begin? I guess I'll begin at the beginning. Oh, and all my opponents were absolutely lovely chaps. I had a great time. So yeah, my gaming evolution started with a kid that lived down the street from me. His name was Dave Phillips, and he was a couple years older than I was, and he had one of those lives that was sort of like planned out by his parents. And I certainly hope that he went out and got rich and retired early and got to be the kid that he never got to be when he was a kid. He introduced me to D&D, but only in like a brushed up against it. We made a character we never played. And we played one game of Car Wars, and I was totally hooked, and I went out and bought it at a game store in West Hartford that has the best game store name ever, which was War and Pieces. I think they closed, which is really too bad because it was a great place. My dad took me there once, and I bought Centurion Blood and Steel, which is a lot like Battletech, and I never really got a chance to play it. But then after I got introduced to Car Wars, I bought Car Wars. And the guys that I played basketball with, I didn't like basketball. I hate basketball. I'm so bad at it. It was just what they wanted to do. We played lots of different stuff. They were my crew, even though I was sort of like the odd man out in a lot of ways. But that's probably the story for all of us nerds, right? We had a mutual friend because my mom knew this dude's mom. They were friends, and we hung out one time, and I invited him to our hangouts with the basketball crew, and he brought Palladium's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role playing, and we started playing that, and we played that for a long time and Rifts, and then eventually started playing Car Wars. And then I fell out with those guys, and I met the Greater Hartford Organization of Saboteurs and Terrorists, which was a Car Wars club out of West Hartford. We really should have changed that name to like Strategy and Tactics, especially considering Steve Jackson Games got hit by the FBI at some point in the 80s. And then I graduated high school, and those guys went off and did their own thing. And I met up with one of them just last year at a con in Oregon. And we played Car Wars 6th edition. I'm not a fan. It tries to be kind of halfway between old Car Wars and Gaslands, and it fails to do either one. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's this got to do with Battletech? We'll get there. Relax. I'll put a thing in the description so you can click past all of this if you don't give a shit about my gaming evolution. But anyway, I went to a local game store after high school, and I got introduced to Magic the Gathering. And I sunk a lot of money into that. I almost said points. Yeah, and one day I saw this kid Keith walking down the street, and he was on his way to the apartments that were right above that game store, and I was like, all right, I'll just pull over and give him a ride. Why not? Well, and this is not alleged, he got arrested and he admitted it. He left my door unlocked after I dropped him off, and he came back out while I was in the game store talking to the owner, and he took my binder. Now, I could have sold that Black Lotus now and paid off this fucking house. So, wherever he is, I hope he's in hell. But yeah, I had some really good stuff. But I got the insurance because it was covered under my auto or my homeowners. I don't know what. It was part of my parents' insurance at the time. Because I was still living at home and I was going to the community college. And so I got into 40K with that money. And yeah, I sunk thousands of dollars and hours into 40K. And then I got into World of Warcraft and I stopped playing 40K because I didn't like 3rd edition. I didn't like 4th edition. I came back for 5th after my girlfriend broke up with me because I just needed something to do. And wow, World of Warcraft was fizzling. And I played 40K on until 8th when it really started to get saturated and annoying. And I'm like, I don't want to learn another set of rules. Fuck you. Especially when I have to buy the book. I mean, if you're just going to put the rules free online, okay, I guess, but no, it's just a money grab. I mean, fuck you, GW, especially with the left-handed swordsman. Nobody wields a sword in their left hand. I don't care. Marines are all ambidextrous. No, they're fucking not. A lot of them are, not all of them. And you can't have a shield wall with a bunch of left-handed people. Anyway, enough of my rant about GW for some reason switching all of their assault marines to left-handed. Yeah, so I kind of fell out of 40K, and then COVID hit, and I had moved, and so I didn't know anybody, and so I was at home, and I had just gotten back from a military deployment where I ended up having to work late nights, and I was basically just a watchman, even though my job was other things. So I started watching YouTube videos, and I discovered Barraduel doing MechWarrior Online videos. And I was like, oh, that's why I sucked at that game. Maybe I'll give it another try when I get home. And when I ran out of his videos to watch, I started watching MechWarrior 4 videos, because I loved MechWarrior 4. It's probably my favorite video game of all time, as you can probably tell from the fact that I did a full playthrough of all of it. So yeah, I got throttle, foot pedals, and joystick, and I tried to do full immersion. And if you watched the playthrough, you could see how that turned out. I got decent. I don't know how I ever managed to play through that game when it originally came out with that old Microsoft joystick or whatever the hell it was. It had a name. We all had one. It was big and bulky in the front and had like 3 buttons here. You can't see my hand, but it had 3 buttons on the left side, and the joystick was here. It doesn't. I think maybe Thrustmaster, was it called a Thrustmaster? I don't remember. Anyway, I'm rambling. I still haven't gotten to Battletech yet. So we get to the point where I start hanging out this game store. No, back up. So I start doing my MechWarrior 4 videos, and then I'm hanging out one night, and my buddy Andy jumps into the Discord. He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm playing MechWarrior Online." He's like, "What's that?" This is a mech piloting game, like 12 on 12. It's basically Counter-Strike, except you're in giant robots. And he's like, "Cool, it's free to play." And he jumped in. And then our friend Connor came into the Discord like 20 minutes later, and we told him about it. And he jumped in. And my handle on MechWarrior Online is the Muffin Man. And Andy was like, "Well, I'm going to be the Itsy Bitsy Spider," which was really dumb of him because he ended up falling in love with assault mechs, and he lived for piloting a Banshee or a Kodiak. I'm a medium mech guy. I run around in either Hunchbacks or Arctic Wolf. I love the Arctic Wolf. It's probably the only mech I'm consistently good with. Yeah, Connor jumped in, and he should have been the gingerbread man because he loves light mechs. He trolls people so bad. Put him in a Jenner, and he will ruin your day. So that's where we were at, and Andy found a 3D printer who could make his Banshee with the flags and the spikes and all the things that he put on it. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll get a couple of mechs from Etsy." And so I bought a Hunchback, and I bought an Atlas, and a couple of the other mechs that I had. And I was just going to make them shelf candy. But then I was at the game store, and I saw these two guys playing Battletech, and I struck up a conversation with them. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, there's a Discord for Battletech for the local area. You should come and play with us." And so I joined a escalation league where you just had a pilot, and you get a 30-25 mech, either medium or light, and then you earn money as part of mercenary company. You and like 4 to 6 people, however many they need to put on a table, and one person is the GM, and he runs a scenario, and you blow some stuff up, and you earn some money, and you build up your mech. I now have a Hunchback with a 300 XL Clan engine, a Clan LBX-20, 3 ER medium lasers, and a supercharger. Oh, and triple strength Myomer. So I can move 14 if I don't snake eyes the supercharger. I did that once. I ran up behind a Shadow Cat, and I blew off one of its arms, and I punched it, and I killed one of its medium lasers too. And if you play MechWarrior Online and you know the people who play Shadow Cats, they're always the last dude, and it's like 12 on 1, and they're like, I'm just going to keep running around and shooting. And you're just like, dude, there's 8 minutes left. Just come over here and let us kill you. So yeah, there was a little bit of satisfaction of smacking that dude. And then I switched to an Oscout. I bought an Oscout. I'm building that up now because there's nothing more I can do with the Hunchback. His name is Lefty because his arm broke in a car accident. I was real bummed out about that because I painted him that day, and then I was driving back from Florida and got rear-ended by an F540. It was like bigger than the F150. Andy had a trailer with a boat. My car got squished. So yeah, I started playing Battletech, and then along came this tournament, and I decided I wanted to give it a shot. So without further ado, I will discuss the tournament. It was 7,500 point battle value. You could have 4 to 6 units, up to 2 of which could be elemental points. And other than that, everything had to be out of this bad boy. Which, it still has a lot of tech in it, but, you know, there was some stuff that wasn't available. And they said you couldn't have semi-guided missiles for your LRMs. which is fine. I don't even know how those work. So I decided, because of Chuck Davion's videos, that I was going to have 6 units, because there's no way that I'm going to give up the initiative advantage on that. And my plan was, I'm just going to have some sluggers and a couple of support mechs and 1 skirmisher, and be aggressive and just kill stuff and then score afterwards. You know, my strategy in 40K was basically the same thing. It didn't work. It didn't work for the fundamental reason that Battletech is easier to play than 40K, and it goes faster, but it doesn't go enough faster. And so we did not finish more than like 5 turns. The first mission, there was just 3 objective markers, and if you're standing up on one of them at the end of the turn and you're conscious, you get a point per. And if you happen to be occupying the space with some elementals, they get a point too, regardless of whose team they're on. Some guy ended that mission with 12 points. I got 2. I was in the 40K mindset of, you just win. You're there to win the mission. And that's not how the tournament worked. The tournament was your total battle points at the end of the game. And so my 2 points got added to the other points that I got in the other 2 missions. My opponent got 3. I almost managed to tie it up by pushing him off one of the objectives with the Uziel, and I was hoping to, end on the objective with the Uziel, but the Uziel fell down, so I didn't get the point. And my Hunchback kept falling over, and he was occupying the other objective. If I had been playing for the scenario, the smartest thing for me to have done was to just not shoot anything. Just drop the Uziel on one of the objectives, run 2 guys onto the others, let them get beat on for a couple turns, and then switch out with my other 3 mechs. Instead, what I did was I came to Battletech Battle, because it's Battletech. It's the same opinion I had in the 1993 Car Wars Championships. There was points for jumping and running over checkpoints and shooting targets, and I came there and I just started killing people because I said it's Car Wars, not car scores. And everybody was like, you're an asshole. And I was like, wait, there's cars with guns on them. We're here to shoot each other, right? No, we're here to run over checkpoints and targets on the wall. Okay, whatever. I got 3rd place, and the guy who got 2nd place was only 1 point ahead of me, and he was dead. And the guy who got 1st place was 3 points ahead of me, and he was dead. And we ended on turn 17 for no explicable reason. I would have won the game if we'd gone 3 more turns. I would have cleaned up. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I came out swinging. I completely whiffed on. I'm going to pause the video for just a second, and I'm going to go get my notebook. Okay, we're back. So yeah, there we go. Game 1. My opponent's name was Ethan, and he had a purple and white force. I will add a photo here. Okay, he had a Marauder 5T, a Locust 6M. Holy shit, that thing moves fast. 28 squares. Flashman 9M, a Spider 8M. It didn't do anything. I blew it up. And a Guillotine 6M. My force was an Uziel 8S, a Hunchback 4G, Crab 27B, the one with the ER lasers, a Discount Archer, also known as an Apollo. It had the 2 LRM 15s with Artemis, and 2 like small pulse lasers or something. I never fired them, so it didn't matter. The Discount Yenlo Wang, because we weren't allowed to have named mechs, so I just had the Centurion that had the AC-20 and the LRM-10. And Enforcer 3 with the AC-20. You see there's a theme. I like AC-20s, and I like them even more now that I've done this tournament. So he ran the Locust onto the first objective, and I ran up on him with my whole team, and I tried to shoot him with precision rounds, and I just whiffed every shot. If I connected even once, I would have blown that thing to pieces. And then he ran so far away that I couldn't do anything about him. So I just focused on killing the rest of his team, and I did a pretty decent job. I got the Spider, and then I pounded the Marauder until I got an ammo explosion, which blew up its XL engine. And I trashed the Flashman. He was almost dead, but I didn't kill him. Or it was the Guillotine. The one with the 2 heavy PPCs, whichever one of those 2 that was, he was okay. The other one, I blew off almost all of his armor, and 1 full torso was gone. But it wasn't enough. So, yeah, if I had just played to the mission, I would have scored a lot of points. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. I don't think I would have, even if I'd known. I think I still would have just fought to fight, because I like shooting things with big autocannons. Second opponent, his name was Kelly Caudle, and he was a nice guy. He had a very, very stock list. Like, he was rocking and I'll put a photo in here if I took one. I don't remember. But he was running a very intro tech list. He was rocking a Marauder 3R, a Shadowhawk 2D, a Rifleman 3N, Wolverine 6M, a Warhammer 6L, and a Stinger 3R. He and I played 8 turns, but half of those was me just running the football to the end zone. Because this mission was, you place 3 objective markers on your side of the board, and then after you've both done that, you reveal on it written down which one of them is your actual base. And we both were like opposite. Like, here's the map. Sorry, I'm oppositing my camera. He was like, he was in the left corner and I was in the right opposite corner. So, yeah, we were as far away from each other as possible. And you had to run over to their base, end a movement standing up in their base, and then have the object, and then run back and score points that way. Almost nobody scored any points at all. I got 2, which was 4 battle points, because I did it twice. I could have done it a third time with the Uziel, but it didn't occur to me. In that mission, I was just super aggressive. I occupied 2 hills overlooking my base, and the Stinger tried to get there, and the Apollo and Crab poked him to death, and he was out of the picture. The other 4 of my mechs just ran wedge formation right into his battle line and pounded the Marauder, who overheated himself and backed off. The Wolverine came forward into the woods right in front of me, and I surrounded him with 3 of those guys and just blew pieces off of him with AC-20s, and I did a cheese boy thing with the Uziel. I felt really bad about it too, and the guy was running the thing. I called him over because I didn't know the rules for it. I just kind of had skimmed it one time, and I said, I really feel really bad about this, but the Marauder's right up against the edge of the map. I'm going to have the Uziel push him off the board. And he was like, don't feel bad about that. So yeah, the Uziel ran up and just went, eh. And the Marauder just went, eh. And then the Warhammer overheated, and I ran over and pushed him off the board too. The Shadowhawk ran up and tried to brawl with the Hunchback, and the Hunchback just pummeled him into oblivion. And then he was just down to the Rifleman. And so I just picked up the ball, and I just started running, and I ignored the Rifleman. I didn't want to sweep him. I felt bad because he was such a nice guy, but I could have just shot him in the back like a bunch of times. I could have just chased him with the Hunchback and just kept shooting him in the back because he was chasing the Centurion and trying to shoot him in the back, but he kept missing. So yeah, that's how that went. And he was nice about it too. He was like, don't even bother shooting. You because they just did last call. Just do the next couple of turns and see if you make it and get some points. And then finally, my last game, I played a guy named Matt. I don't remember his last name. I remember it being unique, though. He was a very nice guy, even though he was clan or scum. I, in fact, voted for him as my favorite opponent because it was a fun game. I felt bad for him, too. We played at least 6 turns. And he had a vulture. I always think of it as the Mad Dog, so silly me. Yeah, with 2 Gauss rifles. He fired every turn for 6 turns. He hit me 1 time. He hit a building 1 time. So, yeah. My Hunchback took a hit and was like, that sucks. And then walked right up into his face and almost blew his arm off. One of my proud moments of the game, he came up with, not the Dasher. The Dasher ran all over the left side of the board and he had like, 12 pulse lasers? 12 micropulse lasers. He just ran. The mission was to blow up buildings and keep the other guy from blowing up your buildings. I think it was the Peregrine, right? No, it was the Fenris. The Fenris came up in between 2 hills. I shot my whole team at it on turn 1, knowing I wasn't going to do much of anything to it. But he retreated back, and he brought the gargoyle up, which is what I wanted him to do. And then I got up in his face with a lot of AC-20s, and I pounded that thing to scrap. So my plans individually within each mission mostly worked and had the outcomes I had hoped for. I just didn't understand how Battletech tournaments go. And if you're a Battletech tournament organizer and you see this, maybe reconsider how you do things. Because it's still Battletech. Like, if me and my second opponent had just been like, we're not going to shoot each other, let's just run the football, we could have both gotten like 20 points. But it would have been, that would have been shady. I know guys who do that in 40K. They'd be like, I got max points in the last game, and this fight is close. I'm just going to throw it a game to you, and now you have max points, and if you go into the 3rd game and you win, we'll split the prize. I know guys who do that. It's absolute douchebaggery, in my opinion, because you're gaming people. That's why I don't like paying for 40K tournaments unless they're charity games, because I'm subsidizing somebody else's hobby. And 40K is just so massively imbalanced on purpose. They're like, oh, let's make this thing super powerful for no reason because everybody will buy a bunch of them, and then we'll change the rules. Anyway, yeah, I beat up the gargoyle, and then I killed a couple of the buildings, and he killed a couple of the buildings, and his dice failed him again. The buildings had 75 damage points. He did 74 damage. to the last building that he shot at. If he'd just gotten one more SRM, and he fired like 4 of them, 4 SRM4s on one of his mechs, and then 4 ATM3s on another one, and he was just like, he whiffed almost every shot he made that whole game. But he was still a good sport. So yeah, Matt, hats off to you. So, final thoughts. Give me a victory point for every 1,000 battle value I destroy, and subtract 1 for every 1,000 battle value I lose. And then, you know, people will actually play Battletech instead of Scorytech, because scoring is cool, but it should be balanced with the combat aspect of the game. Car Wars, some of the championships were too score heavy and others were too fighty heavy. 40K generally does a pretty good balance of, yeah, there's an objective, but if you don't fight, you're not going to keep that objective. And some of the objectives are inherently, you got to kill some stuff. So it at least sort of forces people to bring a ruckus. And that's the way war games should be. So, in conclusion, I brought the list that made sense to me, because I like 50-ton mechs, and I brought 5 of them. And I wanted to bring a trebuchet, but they suck so bad. And they're not symmetric. And I know that sounds really ridiculous, but I just can't do it. Either put both of those LRMs in the arms or put both of those LRMs in the shoulders. Why is there one in the shoulder and one in the arm? It doesn't make any sense. It's silly, but all those old mechs are like that. Yeah, and I would have had leftover battle value if I had not taken the Apollo. And the Apollo rocked. It did work. But that Uzi, holy shit, that thing is overpowered. 858 and 4 pulse lasers, holy shit. And good armor. It's not like it's soft, which was my plan. I was give me 5, 6 battle mechs that have decent armor and good firepower. Because there's people out there who are like, oh, speed is armor. No, it's not. Speed is luck. If I had connected with even one weapon on that 28 movement Locust, it would have just evaporated. It wouldn't have mattered where I hit it. It would have just gone poof. Because it's made out of paper. It's got like 3 points of armor anywhere. Yeah. And it's not like, oh, I needed 12s on all my shots. No, I needed like 8s, 9s, 10s. The one guy at range needed 12s on his lasers and a 10 on the AC-20 because I had precision ammo, but anything that hit him would have just popped it. And then he would have scored 0 points because that thing was the only thing that scored points for him. I mean, it would have changed the way he played, but still. It would have saved me, well, no, I never shot at it again until it ran in front of me to try and get one of my guys off an objective, and he basically just gave himself to death. Anyway, I had a great time, even though I'm not smiling. Thank you to everybody who played. Thanks for that nifty participation trophy. It's just a resin print of a mech standing in front of the Davion symbol, which is, and I guess I meant to be House Davion because I like autocannons so much, but I like House Merrick because I like purple. I don't like birds, but I like purple. Definitely don't like green birds. I like purple.